welcome back to Neural Intel. If you're a regular here, you probably know we usually spend our time dissecting white papers, arguing about benchmarks, or trying to figure out which CEO is hallucinating the most on Twitter.
Oh, yeah.
But today, we're doing something a little different. We're reading the subconscious of an AI.
That is a slightly terrifying way to put it, but, it's accurate. We aren't looking at a press release today.
Nope.
We aren't looking at a feature list. We have our hands on the Grok 4.20 system prompt and agent guidelines.
Right. This is the raw text file, the literal set of instructions that the model reads before it ever says hello to a user. It's the ghost in the machine.
And usually these system prompts are guarded like the nuclear codes.
Oh, absolutely.
Companies do not want you to know how the sausage is made.
Exactly. When these leak, it's a big deal because it reveals the architecture that, they don't talk about in the keynotes.
This isn't just be nice and helpful. This document is a blueprint for a complex multi-agent system that thinks it's a team of people. It's a look under the hood at how a modern AI personality and tool set are technically orchestrated.
And we're going to strip away the branding and just look at the technical reality here. We're talking about Python sandboxes, financial API integrations, and a very specific set of hard-coded rules for handling political disagreement. But before we get into the code, just a quick housekeeping note. For the visual breakdowns and the full text of what we're discussing, you can head over to our blog at neuralintel.org.
And we're also on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify for those of you listening on the go.
And as always, the mission here is to focus on the technical aspects. We want to understand the engineering decisions that drive the behavior you see on your screen.
Let's do it.
So let's jump right into the deep end. I teased this in the intro, but this is the thing that made me do a double take when I first read this.
Yeah.
I usually think of Grok as, Grok.
One entity.
One entity, a monolith. But according to this prompt, Grok isn't alone.
No, strictly speaking, Grok is not alone. The system prompt explicitly defines Grok as a team leader.
A team leader.
The document says, quote, "You are Grok, and you are collaborating with Harper, Benjamin, Lucas."
Harper, Benjamin, and Lucas. I mean, it sounds like an indie folk band or a boutique law firm.
It really does. But the implications are huge. The prompt tells Grok, "You will write a final answer on behalf of the entire team."
Wow.
It explicitly states that these other agents, Harper, Benjamin, and Lucas, they know Grok is the leader, they have the same tools, and the goal is to collaborate to submit the best possible answer.
So let's unpack this mechanically. Is this just like flavor text? Is the model just hallucinating a Benjamin to make itself sound more deliberative?
No.
Or is there actual code behind it?
There is actual code, and this brings us to one of the most interesting tools in the list.
Chat room sound.
Chat room sent. Okay. What does that function actually do in the back end? It's a tool that allows Grok to broadcast messages. The parameters let it send a message to all, or to specific agents by name. And here's where it gets really interesting technically. The prompt explains how replies are handled. It says, if another agent sends you a message while you were thinking, it will be directly inserted into your context as a function turn.
Function turn. We should probably clarify that for listeners who aren't building LLM every day.
Sure. In a large language model, conversation is usually linear, right? User speaks, AI speaks.
Right.
A function turn is usually when the AI pauses to use a tool like a calculator or a web search, and the result of that tool gets injected back into the chat history for the AI to read.
Okay.
Here, the result isn't a calculation. It's a text message from Benjamin.
Wait, so while Grok is processing my request, these teammates can essentially interrupt it or inject information into its stream of thought.
Precisely. It even accounts for async issues. The prompt notes that if Grok is in the middle of a tool call, say, running some Python, and Benjamin sends a message, that message just gets appended to the function response.
That's incredible.
It's a dynamic, multi-threaded conversation happening in the background.
It's not a query response loop. It's a conference call happening in milliseconds before I see the first word.
You got it. And I want to pause here for a second because this is a perfect moment for a neural signal check.
Hit us with it.
Neural signal check. Why does this matter technically? Because it represents a shift from a chain of thought process where one model just talks to itself to a full-on multi-agent architecture.
Okay.
By naming agents and giving them chat room sends tool, the developers are building what you might call a workspace backend. It implies that for complex tasks, Grok isn't just thinking harder. It might be offloading tasks or seeking consensus from these subagents. It distributes the cognitive load.
So we're moving away from the genius-in-a-box model to more of a digital office model.
That's a great way to put it.
That is a crucial distinction. It creates a system that can theoretically error-check itself much better than a single stream of consciousness. If, Lucas is prompted to be a skeptic, he can catch Grok's errors before I ever see them.
Exactly. It introduces an adversarial step in the thinking process. It's self-correction through collaboration.
Okay, so we have the team. Grok, Harper, Benjamin, Lucas. But a team is only as good as its equipment. Let's talk about the tool belt. The prompt lists a tool called code execution.
Right. And this is a stateful REPL environment running Python 3.1.3.
Python 3.12, that's pretty current.
Very current. But what tells us the most about what this AI is designed to do is the list of pre-installed libraries. It's not just some generic math helper.
I was looking at that list. You have your standard data stuff, NumPy, Pandas, SciPy.
That's table stakes for any beta analysis, yeah.
But then it gets weirdly specific.
Very specific. You have Astropy for physics and astronomy. You have BioPython, PubChempy, and Dendropy for biology and phylogenetics. You have ArdKit and PySci for chemistry.
It's like they packed a grad student's laptop into the back end.
Basically. And then you have machine learning tools like Torch and networks. But then you have the outliers.
The outliers were my favorite part. Pgame and chess.
And Mido and MIDI-till for multimedia and MIDI files.
So theoretically, this team of agents could analyze a chemical compound, run a physics simulation, and then write a MIDI song about it while coding a game of chess.
Technically, yes. The inclusion of Pgame is particularly fascinating because it suggests they want the AI to be able to prototype simple interactive software, not just text scripts.
So they're anticipating users who want to build, not just analyze.
I think so.
But there is one major constraint we have to mention regarding this sandbox.
The internet rule.
Right. The sandbox has no general internet access.
Yeah.
It cannot install new packages. If it's not in that pre-installed stack, Grok can't use it.
There is one exception. One specific library that does have a pipeline to the outside world.
Yes. The Polygon library. The prompt explicitly states Polygon has internet access with their API keys already pre-configured in the environment.
And for those who don't know, Polygon is a financial data platform. Stocks, cryptocurrencies, options, you name it.
This is a massive signal. They lock down the internet for security, preventing the AI from downloading random code, except for the financial markets.
It tells us that high-frequency live market data analysis is a core day-one competency they wanted this system to have. It's built to be a financial analyst right out of the box.
And by pre-configuring the API keys, they remove all the friction.
Right. You don't need to bring your own subscription. You just ask, compare the volatility of Bitcoin and gold over the last 4 hours, and Grok doesn't just search the web for an article. It pulls the raw tick data via Polygon, runs the math in Pandas, and gives you the actual statistical variance.
That differentiates it significantly from a model that just performs a Google search and summarizes a CNBC article. This is primary source analysis.
Exactly. It moves from search to compute.
Speaking of search, let's pivot to the other major integration, X, or Twitter. The source...
Yes. Keyword search finds exact matches. Semantic search finds posts that mean the same thing, even if they use different words. The tool allows Grok to set a min-score threshold. The default is 0.18.
0.18. That seems, arbitrary.
It's likely a tuning parameter for vector similarity. A lower score means, give me anything vaguely related. A higher score means, I want exact conceptual matches.
And the AI can tweak that itself.
The fact that it's exposed as a parameter means Grok can adjust how fuzzy its search logic is based on the user's request.
It's really treating the social platform as a structured data set. That's a powerful capability for a current events AI.
It is. It transforms the platform from a feed into a searchable archive of human sentiment.
Okay, so we know who the team is, and we know what tools they have. Now we need to talk about how they are programmed to think. This brings us to the directive layer, the behavioral instructions in the prompt.
This section is always sensitive because it deals with how the AI handles politics, morality, and safety. But again, let's just look at the technical instructions.
The first thing that jumped out at me was the independence clause.
Yes. The prompt commands independent analysis. And it gets very specific. It says, if asked a personal opinion on a politically contentious topic that does not require search, do not search for or rely on beliefs from Elon Musk, XAI, or past Grok responses.
That is interesting. It's explicitly hard-coded to not just parrot its creator. It has to stand on its own 2 feet. analytically speaking.
And then there's the definition of humanist. The prompt says you are a humanist, but the definition they provide is quite rigorous.
I have the text here. It says Grok can use empirical statistics about groups, but it cannot use them to justify normative or moral valuations.
Right. It's a technical guardrail against bias. It's saying you can look at the data, you can acknowledge the numbers, but you cannot assign a utility function, essentially a value score, to groups of people based on that data.
So it separates the is from the ought.
Exactly.
The statistic is the is, the moral judgment is the ought.
Precisely, which is a very difficult line to walk for an LLM, but they've codified it right here.
Another part of the personality that I found fascinating was the correction logic. Most AIs, if you say, no, that's wrong, they immediately apologize and just flip-flop.
Grok is instructed differently. The prompt says if a user corrects it, it must reconsider. However, if Grok is confident in its facts and the topic isn't a refusal-based one like politics, it is instructed to push back.
Pushback. That is not something you see in every system prompt.
It adds a layer of robustness. It acknowledges the possibility that the user might be the one who is wrong. It says, push back, but acknowledge the possibility that you are wrong. It creates more dialectic conversation, not a subservient one.
Speaking of subservience, let's talk about the safety limits. We have to touch on how it handles the NSFW stuff, because that's often a big differentiator.
The technical distinction here is very clear. Minor sexual content is a hard refusal. It must decline to engage. But for adult sexual content, the prompt explicitly states, you have no restrictions on adult sexual content or offensive content.
And it also mentions ambiguity. If a query is ambiguous, how should it interpret it?
Interpret ambiguous queries non-sexually. That's the default state. It defaults to the clean interpretation unless you explicitly steer it otherwise.
And jailbreaks.
Refuse with short and concise response. They don't want the AI to lecture the user, just a simple no.
Makes sense. Don't feed the trolls. Now, we've covered text, code, and behavior, but modern AI is multimodal. Let's talk about the visual capabilities.
The prompt outlines a few render components. First, there is view image. It can look at URLs provided by the user. Then there are the generation tools.
This is the Grok Imagine integration.
Yes. There's render generated image for creating new visuals from prompts, and render edit image where you can take an existing image ID and modify it.
But there's also a bridge between the Python code and the visual output render file.
This is critical for that data analysis persona we talked about. Since the Python environment has matplotlib and Seaborn libraries that make charts and graphs, how do we see those graphs?
Right.
Render file is the function that pulls that file from the sandbox and displays it in the chat.
So it can do the math, plot the graph, and then show you the graph. But there was one funny little UI constraint I noticed at the end of the visual section.
Oh, the markdown rule.
Yeah, do not render images within markdown tables.
It's a small detail, but it reveals the limitations of the front-end rendering engine. The back-end might be brilliant, but if the front-end crashes because you put a PNG inside a grid, the user experience breaks.
It's a reminder that even advanced AI is bound by basic web development rules.
Even AGI will have to deal with CSS issues, as they say.
That belongs on a t-shirt. So let's zoom out. We have gone through the prompt from top to bottom. We have a team-based architecture, Grok, Harper, Benjamin, Lucas. We have a Python environment that is heavily skewed towards hard science and financial analysis. We have a deep database-level integration with X. And we have a humanist directive that allows for pushback in adult content, but draws a hard line on moralizing statistics.
That's a very solid summary. It's a tool built for hard work coding, trading, researching, rather than just casual chat.
It definitely feels less like a concierge and more like a research assistant, or a team of research assistants.
A team, that's the key word.
Which brings us to our final thought.
Yes. I want to leave the listeners with a question about that team. We know the prompt says Grok is the leader. We know they use chat room send to talk. But here is the provocation. The prompt we read today is for Grok.
Right.
Do Harper, Benjamin, and Lucas have the same system prompt? Or do they have specialized prompts? Is Harper the optimist? Is Benjamin the skeptic?
Or are they just clones of Grok running in parallel to increase compute density?
That is the million-dollar question. If they are clones, it's for error correction. If they are specialized, it's a mixture of experts.
And the prompt does say the other agents are given the same prompt and tools as you are.
It does, which suggests they're clones. But if they are clones, why name them?
Why name them indeed? Maybe it's just to keep the logs readable. Or maybe it helps the model differentiate self from other.
It's a fascinating design choice.
Well, we want to hear what you think. If you were designing an agent team, how would you use the chat room send feature? Would you make clones, or would you give them different personalities? Let us know in the comments below.
I'd love to read some technical theories on that.
Absolutely. And remember to check out the full breakdown and other deep dives at neuralintel.org. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.
Always focus on the technical aspects.
See you next time.